Are you curious about discovering ways of making your life better? Then welcome to my podcast. I'm Bob Nickman, and this is The Exploding Human. Listen in while I talk with all kinds of people in the fields of personal growth, health and healing, alternative therapies, psychology, spirituality, environment, and the future. I'm looking for those answers that make life better for everyone. You'll meet cutting-edge practitioners, doctors, artists, filmmakers, business people, and those who have overcome challenges. The brave, the curious, anyone who's out there helping us humans to explore, expand, and explode. Welcome to the podcast. I'm Bob Nickman. This is The Exploding Human. I got a great guest today. Wes Geer, a former guitar player for the band Korn, among many other rock bands. He's been around for a long time, playing a lot of music. And he's created an organization called Rock to Recovery. And he uses his musical talents, expertise, business sense, and he helps people in all types of recovery, from alcohol and drug addiction to wounded veterans, people with eating disorders, children with emotional problems, all kinds of ways that he uses music and song and lyrics to help people heal and to feel better and to recover. And he will talk to me about this coming up here in a second. I have to say, I really enjoyed talking to him. He's one of those guests where you just ask him a question and he goes, man. He just keeps talking and it's all good. So I love talking to him, and I think you'll enjoy listening to him. Here's the interview. Wes Geer. Rock to Recovery.
Yeah.
That is his nonprofit organization.
That's correct.
And you've been doing it how long?
Rounding the corner to our 5th anniversary.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
5 years. So
Founded on 12/12/12. Obviously a magical number for those of you who do not know. I don't know.
It's a lot of ones and twos.
I mean, yeah.
Let me just read this. I don't know where I got this from. Rock to Recovery, a nonprofit organization founded by Wes Geer, former guitarist from the band Korn, which we'll talk about too, was created to help soothe the restless soul of those in early recovery. We do this by creating a band and writing songs together with Rock to Recovery's staff of professional musicians who are also in recovery. Well, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So they know what they're talking about. We help bring fun into those first days of treatment, offering a natural escape from the fear-based mind by helping grow a sense of belonging, self-esteem.
Yeah.
We help to vent emotions by writing lyrics and singing together for release in real time, tying in a positive theme of hope in recovery.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. I'm going to not read the rest of it because that pretty much says it all.
Yeah. It's funny because when you're reading that first part and then you said, let's see, we do this by creating a band. Okay, it says to soothe the restless soul of those in early recovery, we do this by creating a band and writing songs together. I mean, for people who've been in bands, they're like, that doesn't sound soothing.
Well, especially when we're thinking, because your history is
Sure.
rock.
Yeah.
Some of the angriest music traditionally.
Yeah, sure.
Right?
I mean, yeah, I guess so. I mean, I would start using other names than rock when we get into angry, like hard rock or heavy metal or punk rock or whatever, grindcore. I don't know.
I know. I love all the
Post-punk.
categories. I love all the
Yeah.
categories because it just gets so specific. I was inventing one. I came up with one the other day called shtetl rock.
Is that German?
Shtetl is like it's a Jewish ghetto from way back when.
Yeah.
I have no idea why I was driving, I thought of the word, and I go, how come there's no genre called shtetl rock?
Well,
Because those are some troubled people.
Yeah, I guess so.
Back in the day.
Yeah.
Let's just start with, come back to this. Let's talk
Sure.
about Korn.
Let's talk about them.
This was a band that you played in for a number of years. How long?
Few years.
Yeah.
Yeah, I got that gig after I got sober. So I started out with thinking my music career was over and I wouldn't play again. And then through a process of recovering and then finally deciding, hey, I think I want to get back into music, even though I'm fairly old. Then next thing you know, Korn was asking me to come play with them.
So you, the wheels kind of came off prior to that. With
kinda
the
is an
lifestyle, the rock
understatement.
lifestyle, kind of kicked your ass, or this was maybe even before.
Oh no, I got a record deal on piles of methamphetamine, and I was masterminding.
Oh my!
Yeah, I was the mastermind of our band. Like I was definitely the leader. I wasn't the singer, but I was writing and producing and picking the band name and the logo and what our sound was and whatever. And then I discovered meth, and then our band got even more popular. So I thought it was like the best stuff ever, of course. And then after a few years of being on meth and doing music, I finally figured out, well, this probably isn't something I should keep doing. So I quit that. But then I became a really heavy drinker and toured for a long time. But I thought I was okay, right? Because it's hard. Because I was like, I'm just drinking like everybody else. What are you talking about? But I wasn't. I just couldn't see it. And then... So yeah, then I have ultimately, after about 8 years of that, crashed and burned. And, yeah, and then I was like, okay, I'm done with music. But that only lasted a few years, and then almost 5 actually, before I decided I wanted to get back into music.
So you weren't playing at all for 5 years, or maybe just in your room, or?
Yeah. So the trippy thing was that I left, and I had convinced myself. My brother's like, "You went farther with your band." That was with a band called Head PE. We were on Jive Records, and we toured with Slipknot and Linkin Park and Papa Roach and Incubus and Deftones and all these Snot and endless bands.
My favorite name ever.
Yeah. We all played in System of a Down. We all played together, clubs together. So we toured with them together. And anyhow, so where was I? I was at the crashing and burning part. So my brother was like, see, he's a very smart guy. You went farther than most of these people go. Just be happy with that and move on with life. Have a nice, normal life. I'm like, yeah, you're right. But I would go to shows and it would pain me. It was weird. It was like, I should be up there. Wasn't like an ego way, but it was like, I just felt like I still had more.
Right. It spoke to that inner drive to that's what I should be doing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like I felt like that's what I was made to do. And so, I'm in recovery now. I actually got sober for 2.5 years, stopped doing my recovery program, got loaded, got sober again about 2.5 years. The second time, that's when I started praying and meditating, going, God, I think I want to get back into music. And within days of starting that message to the universe, Korn hit me up on a text, hey, you want to come play with us? And that was around 2009, I think. Yeah. So
I know of the band. I'm not somebody that follows that type of music very close. I'm more of an old blues and funk guy. I don't
love that too.
Yeah. So I don't really know much about Korn. I know they're a big band in that genre.
Yeah, what you should know about Korn is, even though they were so, I guess you could say, weird or such a niche band or so particular, they weren't just rock and roll. They weren't just like, they did this thing they did that was very, I guess you could say, it became trendy. So many people started copying Korn. If you will, they were kind of like the Madonna of nu metal, where everybody started dressing like them, acting like them, holding their guitars like them. Their stage performance was like, they were super influential. But what's even more interesting is you have to go back to the era. This is prime MTV days. And they had TRL, True Request Live. And that's where the fans voted in. Now, Korn doesn't have radio music, especially in the beginning at least. But they were so popular. When they were on True Request Live, Total Request, TRL, on MTV. There was Britney Spears, NSYNC, Backstreet Boys, and Korn, all battling for top spots. You have the top pop bands in ever. Korn beat them so long as number one, they had to invent retiring a video because they wouldn't lose. So it was really like an anomaly. It was like, how does this weird niche metal dark band fusing hip hop elements and crazy down tunings get so wildly popular? And they did, without really having your obvious radio singles, very quirky and artsy stuff. So, they sold 40 million records. So that they were special.
That sounds amazing to me to be
Yeah.
in the same arena as those other people,
Right.
that are so mainstream.
Right. So that was pretty trippy because Korn, we were all in Huntington Beach. They came from Bakersfield to Huntington Beach, and we were all playing the same little local club where it was, those bands I mentioned, Deftones and Shrinky Dinks, which turned into Sugar Ray with Mark McGrath, and Korn, and my band was called Head at the time. And so we all played the clubs, and then Korn it was weird. You'd go to their shows. A lot of bands had great shows. Their shows was like, is there some sort of trance over these people? It was bizarre. It was really amazing to watch, and that followed them up for years into their first few albums. So they were doing,
So they really started from the bottom up, not the top down. Sometimes it's record promotion and all that stuff, and you've got these bands that you're told you're supposed to like them. These guys and you guys.
These were one of those bands where the radio had to play them, MTV had to play them. They were just so popular with the fans. Yeah,
that's great. I love hearing stuff like that. Somebody can transcend all that sort of commercial bullshit and just speak directly like that and do that well.
Every once in a while, there's breakout art that does that. Yeah, it defies all odds. And if you go back and listen to their first record that helped them do that, it was like you could name all the things that were, quote, wrong about it or whatever. So it was fun to watch. So when I decided I wanted to get back into music, I was like, well, I'm not getting in the van. I don't know how old I was, 38 or 40. I'm not going to go do some silly punk rock thing or whatever and be broke. So I kind of had this reservation in my mind that if I do it, it would have to be at a high level, as funny as that sounds. And then so Korn hit me up, and it was a band that here's the thing that I forget to tell this story often. Actually, I had a dream years before, and Korn was this band where they were like brothers. Like I saw how they hung out with each other and they influenced each other and checked on each other. They're such a cohesive unit. But I had this dream that Brian, their guitar player, Head was his nickname, left. Probably a year before it happened. And then but it was like, why would you dream that? Because there's no reason you would think there's anything not perfect about what was going on in that band. But he went crazy on meth and he left. And my phone started blowing up and everybody's like, oh, dude, you're perfect for this gig. So I was like, wow, this is weird. I dreamt this happening. But I didn't get the gig then because my reputation as a loadie ruined it for me. They're like, Wes, somebody brought my name up. This is how the story goes, I hear. My name no, that guy's a madman. I see him downtown in Huntington. No way. Well, they went through a couple of guys that were filling in for Brian, Head, Welch, and my name came up again after a couple of years, and they said, Wes, oh, no, he's a madman. No, I heard he's sober a couple of years now. Oh, okay. And then, bing, I got the text. So I feel like in some ways I always felt like I could play for that band. I could fit in that band. I had the dream about it. It was just weird.
That's amazing.
I'm into all that weird stuff.
Yeah.
I truly believe. I have too many weird stories like that.
Well, the universe is pretty fucking mysterious sometimes.
It's conscious.
Yeah. So you did that, and then what made you stop that situation and move to rock to recovery?
Well, I will tell you. You can edit out my drink.
No, I want to keep that in. That was Arrowhead or Crystal Geyser.
Wetting my whistle. So when I was with Head touring, and we weren't making a bunch of money, we were definitely surviving with a fair income. You're always like, what am I going to do? What if the money stops coming in? When's the next check? Oh, there's a lot of fear, and I wasn't sober yet. And so I was living in a lot of fear. And when I left that band, I just got the first job I could get. It ended up being good for me, but that's not the point. So I was with Korn. I was like, okay, this is probably not going to last forever. What are you going to do? And now I'm living like spiritual means. I'm trying to be conscious and loving and, not just take and try to get laid and get wasted, bro. I'm trying to actually live a good life, and be a good human, because that's important for me to stay sober, is that kind of adjustment. So Rock to Recovery came to be because there's a spiritual philosophy that says you can pray for yourself if others are to be helped. And I said, okay, well, instead of whining about how I feel like I was destined to be a musician because I love it so much and I couldn't not be one, and then I felt like I was destined to be an alcoholic because I didn't really set out to go, hey, I want to love booze and drugs so much that it almost kills me. It just seems like I was preordained for that. Instead of being whiny about that, and I decided instead of leaving the planet as just another guitar player, because there's plenty of those, what can I do for my legacy where I could create something to help people and give back? And kind of the prayer to God or the universe or whatever was like, how can I help people with music and make a living using who you seem to have made me to be? How can I switch that instead of a pity party into turning it around and going, okay, this is cool. I can use this stuff to help people. And I had a guy I talk to all the time, Jeff Fab. He's a friend of mine who lives a similar lifestyle, if you know what I mean. Wink, wink. And he asked me to hold up a sign for this thing in the East Coast, like there's a way out. And he goes, oh, yeah, when we went to a treatment center and brought some music in there and we played music with him. And I was like, yeah, that's brilliant.
So he just kind of tried that?
He like did it as a one-off. He goes, it's cool. Obviously they weren't musical and we did, most of the heavy lifting if it were. But the thing is, my background was I was always teaching music. And when I was in my treatment center, I brought my guitar. When you're in treatment, I had 22 guys and you're like, that guy's cool. Screw that guy. He's weird. Because you're insecure. You feel bad about yourself. So you think everybody else sucks too. And you have anxieties. So it's a lot of, what's it called? Clickiness and stuff like that. But I had my guitar and I would play my guitar and it would break down all the walls between all the people. And we'd write these silly country songs and kind of annoy the staff there. But they would try not to laugh, but it was funny. And everybody came together and that stuck with me. And then I taught music at this place called Fusion Academy for kids with unique educational needs. It's one student, one teacher. They're just not thriving in school. It's not special ed, and I would teach songs. Instead of like, hey, learn this drum beat, I would write a song with a drum beat. Instead of learning this guitar part, I write a song. So it's kind of like, was always kind of how I worked. So when I heard that, I was like, right, I could totally see writing songs. It just came to me. The name, Rock to Recovery, the idea I'm going to go in and write songs with people in treatment.
I also saw that you did stuff with wounded veterans.
Yeah. So when we were touring with Korn, Jonathan Davis, the singer, would visit a lot of veterans, a lot of Air Force bases. And he had this gal, Josie, and she was in the Air Force. I'm not sure if she's active anymore. I always forget that, honestly. I'm a horrible person. But no, I'm not. But I just wish I remembered things better. But anyhow, so I was Rock to Recovery is working at this point to tie in this thing of the story. And I was like, well, it sure would be cool if we could work with veterans. And I hit up Josie and she made a contact. And then we started working with veterans and have had great success. We started having great success in the addiction, mental health, eating disorder world. And then when we did it with the vets, we had equally wonderful success. And we got a contract from the Department of Defense to work with wounded warriors, which is pretty good for this guy who used to be an ex-tweaker and got arrested for breaking into cars for I don't know why I was even doing that. But it's kind of a...
Well, I told you this. I did I participated in this movie a number of years ago called Wounded Comedy Warriors Healing Through Humor. And they took comedians and we mentored these wounded vets and taught them how to write and perform comedy.
That's cool.
And then we got some celebrity comedians that critiqued also. And they got up and, it's a movie. It's been on, it was on Showtime. Awesome. And it's on Amazon Prime now.
I have Amazon Prime. I'll peep it out.
Yeah. It's called Comedy Warriors.
Awesome.
Check it out. So and every one of these guys had some level of PTSD from their experience. Every one of them. I mean, that was other than the actual physical wounds, missing legs and things like that. They all had that, and it was an interesting thing to watch. It sometimes, when I'd be hanging out with these guys, and it would kick in a little bit, and the feeling of fear and
Yeah.
the inability to be around other people. Very similar to a newly sober person. I mean, a lot of tension, a lot of fear, a lot of not knowing who you are in the moment, kind of thing.
Well, since we've been working with Wounded Warriors, we're like in our third year now. I sure have learned a lot about it. I thought, maybe I didn't think much about it, but if you asked me years ago, I would have been like, oh, PTSD, yeah, the bombs, so that kind of fried them or something. And then, of course, people lose limbs, like you're saying. But there's much more of a story to it there. And, you have hypervigilance, where you have guys who've gone through so many combat zones where they're, checking around corners and making sure they don't get shot. They can't turn that off. So even in life, their brain is still wired to like, what's around that corner? What's over there? What was that noise? Is there somebody, they can't turn that thing off, that protective mechanism. There's a lot of different ways that PTSD and those traumas of battle manifest. But, one thing that I really noticed is an underlying story for a lot of them beyond the PTSD, the TBI, traumatic brain injury, all that, is that these men and women decide to dedicate their lives to service. And they go through boot camp and training, which even does more to your mind that like you are you'll give your life for this country. This is what you're going to do. This is your mission in life. Well, you get injured and you can't serve anymore. So you have your family, your brothers and sisters, your service men and women. That's your crew. That's what you're going to do for your life. You're going to serve. And maybe you're on a base somewhere, or that's your family, and you get injured, and then you can't serve anymore. So then you get sent home. So now you have PTSD, probably some trauma. A lot of guys, are dealing with like the death they saw and maybe the death that they created, right? And you're stuck sitting at home. You can't work. What are you going to do? Where's your brothers? Where's your sisters? Where's your father? You have no. So it's like
your family's been taken away, is what you're
everything.
saying.
Yeah, you can't work. You got no family. You feel horrible.
And your
about yourself.
Identity also.
Your identity, plus you throw in some pain or your leg or some traumatic brain injury. I mean, it's just like so many different angles it comes from for them. So I remember we had on a Veterans Day or Memorial Day, I can't remember which, I wanted to do a quick post on Instagram for the vets for Rock to Recovery, and I didn't have time. And then I went into group, and I was at this treatment center with like 10 guys. And then funny enough, I'm getting ready to start doing my Rock to Recovery pitch, and this guy some of the guys start hitting the drums because I'm bringing in instruments. And this older dude, he's probably 60, goes, "Hey, Wes, may I speak with you?" He takes me outside. He goes, I got PTSD. I served in Vietnam for years. I can't do this. I said, "Cool. You don't have to do it. We're going to talk for a while, and we're going to connect on the level of recovery and what we're going through first. And then if the music gets too loud, you let me know. And you could, and for sure, bounce, take off. You don't have to stay in here." But what happened was, we all started connecting over this topic, which is like in recovery, whether it's PTSD or opiates or whatever, when you're in that dark, hopeless place, it's the same elements. Doesn't matter what got you there. It could be that your family died in a car crash, could be drug addiction, it could be PTSD. You feel alone, dark, hopeless. It's the same elements. So we all connected on that, and then we started writing the song. And of course, we turned down a little more than usual. And then it turned out this gentleman used to love singing in the church. So he started writing these kind of, bluesy, gospel-y kind of chord progressions, and he just started wailing. And every week when I came there, he goes, "This is the one group that helps me put away my past, helps me feel connected, helps me feel God and presence and all that kind of stuff." And that was before we started working with Wounded Warriors officially. And it was like, wow. And there was all these little miracles that happened in the early days of Rock to Recovery that I can't say I anticipated at all. I thought, hey, hit a drum, maybe the guy will leave. But it turned out that the group was his favorite and most therapeutic for him.
Now, the musicians that work in Rock to Recovery, are they all from similar genre to you because they're your friends and people that, or is it a lot of different types of music?
I mean,
I'm sure you play other music.
Similar. Yeah, it's in the rock world. Like for us, we would say, well, Brandon is totally different vibe from Sonny. Yes, he is, but it's in the rock realm.
Yep.
You know what I mean? So it's not like we got a polka guy and a traditional jazz guy and a
Yeah. I just didn't know who gravitated to it, but I assumed it would be what you're saying.
Guys we know from the rock world. But,
So-
you know, these days, people who record and produce music know how to do all styles. So all my guys will do some reggae songs, some country songs, some hip hop songs, rap songs, rock, metal, punk. You know, we can get into some of the
Right,
genres.
because they're studied people, so they understand
you know how
all
to do it.
Yeah. So here's my question that I thought of, and I forgot to ask Sonny this. Now, Sonny is Sonny Mayo, who introduced us, and he played in a number.
Snot.
Yeah.
Snot was his
Something
band.
else he's doing.
Then he did Seven Dust, and he did
that's the
Ugly
one.
Kid Joe.
Yeah. So if you're a fan of Sonny's, he introduced me to Wes. So
Sonny rules. Everybody loves Sonny.
he does, and he has less hair than me, so I really love him.
That's awesome. That's a good.
So a little shout out to Sonny there. We always do our little bald thing when we talk. So we So I was wondering, you go into a place, let's say it's a recovery home or with vets or whatever situation is. You said you did eating disorder, all kinds. So you come in, and there's a group of people, and there's going to be certain people in there, maybe even most. They'll say to you, "I'm not a musician.
Yeah.
I don't play. I don't have a sense of rhythm. I don't have a sense of melody. I don't even know what this is."
They're full of shit.
That's what I wanted. That's what
we don't tell them that. Internally, we think that. So there's a few things that we like kind of go to explanations that we do. Like one is, okay, sure. I mean, I'll be honest. I'm just gonna be honest. It's annoying when they say that.
Because it's also a false belief.
Because I'm human and I've done this for so long and I'm not perfect and I'm not Jesus, so I'm not like, that's okay, I love you anyway. I'm like, oh, here we go again. I'll just be honest. But the thing is that we know how to get them out of that. So what we do is we start talking about like, okay, cool. Well, how was music created? Did a piano fall from the sky and then some guy in the jungle was like, whoa, what's this? Ding, ding, li, 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 on the piano. No. Did a guitar fall from the heavens and a caveman caught it and was like, no. How did music start? It's probably very simple, banging on logs, grunting, simple melodies and rhythm and cadence. And why did they do it? Did they do it to write a pop song? Did they do it to write the Fifth Symphony? They did it just to have fun and express. It's something that came out of them. And then if you get into like, you know, music when it was like the chain gangs where they did it as a coping mechanism or worship music and all the applications of music. So in a sense, I think music's been stolen from the average person because I think if you're not Beyonce or Bruno Mars or John Mayer, you're not musical, which is a crock of caca. The other thing we say is, okay, sure. This is the most funny and entertaining and neat thing I think that happens is that when we'll go, okay, you're not musical. No, I am not musical. Okay, cool. Well, if you were 2 or 3 years old and I was your mom and I turned on some music, what would you do? Oh, I'd start dancing. Okay, so let's review. You're not musical, but at 2 or 3, if we put on the music, you'd start dancing. Who taught you how to do that? Who taught you what a happy song, a slow song, angry song is, a sad song? It's in us. So I truly believe that language is the one, music is the one true language that we have in us from birth. And I think we move away from it. And I think a lot of humanity, being a human, is that experience, loving purely and then getting hurt and not loving so easily, not being so vulnerable, all these things that hurt us and damage us, whatever they may be, trauma, PTSD, all these things that change how we act and react to the world. And I think music is one of the things that gets taken away from us quickly. You could imagine if you took that same, let's say a room full of 10 3-year-olds and every day of their life you had this little musical thing you did, how musical would they be? It's when these ones step away from music and go and do their lives that they probably lose it. But so more to the point, what we're talking about is they all say that we endeavor to get everybody singing, and we do almost every time. And you can imagine how, F you, bro, I'm not singing. But what we find is with some help and guidance, and that's what our art is, and what we've become good at is we can help break down those walls and show them you actually can do this. We're not asking you to play Stairway to Heaven. We're going to play something a little simpler. And then for them, one or two simple notes is shredding because they just learned it, and so many great songs have been built on a few good notes put together with a few people. And then when we start out with this thing that we're writing a song, we're in a band together, we're writing this song together, and we're going to pick a topic. We'll talk to them about where they're at. Well, I really miss my family today. Okay, well, let's sing about that. Well, now the song means something to them. It's a song written by them for them, or by us for us. So it's easy to get them to buy in. We're not going into like a gym and singing about pink sneakers. You know what I mean? Which that could actually work. But anyhow.
Yeah. Anything can be
right.
turned into a song if you believe in it a little bit. It's just...
So and then what happens is they come out with Esteem, and they've completed something. And for people in these places, they feel like they probably haven't completed or accomplished anything in a long time. They're down on themselves, shame, guilt, apart, feeling apart from.
It sounds, I mean, if you had people just really start to break down and cry as they're doing this stuff because they're singing about things that are really probably painful or beautiful or I mean, I can imagine, sitting and writing a lyric, and if it's honest, it's gonna bring something up.
Yeah, all sorts of reactions happen. A lot of times though, it's funny how music works. I mean, certainly there's times when people go to write something and they're like, "Oh, this is too heavy. I kind of can't go there right now." But usually, what I notice is if they can get it on paper or deal with it, the music part is almost like the anesthesia of it. Well, I shouldn't say that because it doesn't numb you out. Maybe it's more like the surgery of it, is in which it lets your soul deal with the injury. You know what I mean? It helps your soul heal from the injury. That's what I noticed, and certainly we've had all sorts of things occur, but there's been times where clients have left the program and they OD, and so the remaining clients know and they're destroyed and bummed out by it. Yeah, but music's helped us come together and process it and deal with it. And the thing that I like to stress a lot that I think people almost can't fathom is how transformative playing music is on your energy and your emotion. So I've had girls come in crying, bawling, and leave totally laughing. Because when you play music, it lights up your whole brain. Listening music lights up your half your brain. When you play music, it lights up your whole brain, the left side and the right side. It's both emotional and motor. And so what I noticed, in the same way, if I was too drunk and did some meth and the meth just kicked the booze's ass and I, could function again, maybe that's a bad comparison, but I know that music does the same for emotion. It literally wins. Playing music wins. It's like all encompassing. Because I was dating a borderline personality gal, and I would go into sessions not wanting to, feeling like I had just come off the electric chair and my heart had been, held up for Satan's sacrifice or something, just like destroyed. Where you think I can't even work right now and I got to go run the session. I would come out an hour later and I'm like, am I in Tahiti right now, surrounded by beautiful friends? Like the vibration was entirely different. And if anybody listening, if you think about those times when you've been so hurt and so depressed or so mad or so whatever, and you're like, when is this going to stop? When's it going to go away? And it sometimes just takes hours of sitting through. I personally have seen and gone through it myself where literally after an hour of playing and singing music, it's over. It's done. It's gone. It's dealt with. I mean, I'm not saying it's like eradicated 100%.
Yeah, it doesn't solve the problem, but the way you're reacting is
the vibration. Your whole vibration has changed. Yeah, like a drug. That's why we say music is the medicine. That's our motto.
I love that.
Yes.
So you go in to a place and you take like how many people to make a band, and you're basically the mission is going in and writing a song with a group of people by the end of an hour or two?
Yeah, it's a little over an hour. Some sessions go closer to 2, depending on where we're at. But we send one of our guys, and he's the maestro, and then we make a band with whoever's there. I mean, I have a guy today that did it with 30 people, and they got them all singing. And I had it where I went in. There's this one gal, and I had been seeing her every week with a number of clients, but that day all the clients were gone or at an appointment or something. And she goes, "Well, I guess there's no rock to recovery today. There's just me." And I go, "Well, hang on. Let's talk for a second here." And what was amazing was, instead of having so many people to try to connect to, her and I just spoke, and it turned out that her mom was really emotionally abusive and verbally abusive, constantly putting her down. And I got to dig into that a little bit. She's like, she's always judging me, making me feel less than. I'm like, God, here's this girl in treatment trying to do better, and she's showing me texts from her mom, which is just like, how do you get better, So we wrote her mom a song. And it was basically saying things like, I just want you to love me. Can we move beyond the past? I need you there for me, and I'll be there for you. Let's create a love that can last. And this girl actually we didn't know, but she actually had a pretty darn good singing voice. So we recorded it and sent it to her mom. I'm getting chills right now just thinking about it. There's all these cool ways it works, so.
How did the mom respond? Did you ever find out?
I never got to find out. Honestly, I never did. Yeah,
because you figure the mom probably had parents that did the exact same thing, and that's where she learned it, and she was passing it on. And boy, those voices are strong inside people sometimes, and I think a lot of people don't think they can say what they really are thinking because the parent is like the authority figure. Even when you're an adult, sometimes you might say, "Oh, I can't say that to my parent. It's my parent," but. Obviously, in this situation, she was able to do that. It sounds amazing.
Yeah, well, music gave her the vehicle to do it. It's kind of funny, right? Because if the lyrics are intertwined with the melody and song, it's easier than going, "Hey, Mom, you hurt me. You weren't there for me." What? I can't hear my daughter say that. But in the song, it was kind of gave it a softer delivery, I guess. But yeah, that's been my journey. I'm in recovery world, and we deal with people all the time. And it's totally what you're saying is like, all our challenges emotionally come from what we experience as children. And the problem is, when we're kids, whatever we have is normal. So if your dad frequently slaps you in the face, you probably think like, well, yeah, I mean, that's what dads do. They slap you in the face, you know what I mean? Whatever it is. And that could create some cognitive dissonance too, where you're like, wow, that doesn't feel good, but he is my dad, so I must deserve it, I guess. You know what I mean? And then you're really fucked.
Well, I know somebody who was more than one person, and she was in therapy, and she was telling the therapist. She told me this story that she was telling the therapist how much her dad hit her.
Yeah,
and she goes, "But I deserved it." Right. And he goes, "Well, no, you didn't."
No, you didn't.
And she's like, "What? What do you mean? That's what they told me."
Exactly.
Now, she doesn't think that, but at the time,
wrong
it was,
messages. Yeah. Sexual abuse, all sorts of stuff, and that's really what we humans have to uncover. And everybody has some of it somewhere. You know what I mean? Everybody does. There's nobody that doesn't have a relationship that hurt them or whatever. And then the problem is it makes us take that old information. Because, okay, this is the way I always explain, is like, if you're in the forest camping and you hear a twig snap and you turn around and then a bear, is right there. Next time you hear a twig snap in the forest, you're going to freak out. So if you have these episodes of getting hurt or whatever it is, when you live your normal life, you're going to have that knee-jerk reaction because your brain's trying to keep you safe. It may keep you from dating as much or being as open, or I don't want to talk about that because last time I did, my friends laughed at me or whatever. And it puts up all these barriers and walls, because really our goal is to be able to love freely and be vulnerable and not be afraid, right? We're either in fear of being judged or I'm not good enough, blah, 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 or we're in love and faith where it's like, hey, I'm going to be my authentic self. I'm going to love you, and who cares what you think of me? I don't need your approval, right? It's all good. So, but most humans have stuff that inhibits them and puts boundaries on how freely they can live life. That's kind of the human condition. I think spirituality, the whole goal of it is, no matter which angle you come at it, is to be able to live life the most freely. And back to the music, I think doing the music really helps people access that part of freedom in their soul.
I'm just taking that in, man. That's what that pause was.
Yeah.
You said you were a really good talker, and you are. And I'm enjoying listening
Well,
to you.
thanks.
I was like, keep going.
I don't know if I said I was a good talker or just that I will talk.
I guess that's what I mean by good.
Yeah, I'll let you judge, but I will definitely blab.
Well, it's good. I mean, I've had people I've had to really pull.
Yeah.
And this, I'm sort of sitting back and going, wow, he's just telling it, and it's great. I'm enjoying it.
Well, I'm passionate about this stuff. I live it, and it's I'm very passionate about it. And then you start seeing it everywhere in your life. You start seeing where your friends have blocks, and not that you would judge them, but you're like, I wish you'd deal with that so you could get to this place of greater freedom and joy, you know?
I don't know what made me just think of this. I have no idea why this just popped in my head. I guess it's the freedom of not being necessarily good at music, but expressing yourself. There was an album when I was a young man called An Evening with Wildman Fisher. I don't know if you've ever heard this album.
No.
Frank Zappa produced it, and this Wildman Fisher was a guy who sold songs for a dime on the Sunset Strip, and he did his own vocals with the music, and it was pretty wild stuff. Very amateurish and
Sure.
but so from inside, and he was in mental hospitals over the years. And the cover is him with a knife to this old woman's throat and a sign around her neck that said Larry's mother. His name was Larry Fisher. I think he's still alive. And I remember looking at this thing going, what is this?
What is going on?
Yeah, and it was just so raw.
Yeah.
And so pure. And I don't know what made me think of it. I don't even know if I'm going to keep this in the interview, but
yeah.
It was a wounded guy. I guess this is why. He was very wounded, and he had some mental illness, and I don't know if it was based on the parenting or it would have been that way anyway, but it was a complete expression of his demons in a comedic, musical way that I guess Frank Zappa saw that something there that he wanted to put it out as an album.
Raw expression.
Yeah, so if anybody wants to check out something that's you'll never hear anything like it again. It's called An Evening with Wildman Fisher. It's old. It's an older album.
That's funny.
Yeah.
I wish I could remember this guy my friend turned me on to. Similar thing. He might be like spectrum autism, but he plays with the keyboard presets. If anybody knows like those cheaper $200 keyboards, and you hit a button, it's like and he'll just sing about like Delta Airlines, but it's so funny though. Where's my peanuts? Like,
but that's like a child. That's what a child does. The child walks around and just sings about what they see.
Yeah, exactly. And that's kind of what we're talking about is vulnerable expression, lack of fear, letting it out, channeling that part of us. Yeah. For me, I've never been a good singer, but sometimes I, write lyrics and melodies. It was always interesting because I would have a melody and kind of a rhythm, and then I let the words just that would come first, the melody and the rhythm of how I was going to sing it. And then I would just write words that matched that without even trying to worry about what I was saying. And then when I look back, it would always be exactly what I was feeling. If I was struggling with a bandmate or something, like, wow, I didn't even try to do that. And there's obviously a theme. So it's an obvious channel for us, I think.
Yeah. My musical dilemma is that I like to sing and I'm not good.
Yeah, me too.
And right, I can hear the notes are wrong.
Yeah.
I can't make them right. Maybe some training would do that. I don't know, but I don't have the thing. And it's like if I could sing, I probably wouldn't do anything else because it just feels so damn good,
Yeah. Like if I had a woman's body, I would just stare at myself all day long and then no, I'm just kidding. No, but I feel you. I wish I could sing too. I have to sing with my guitar. It's frustrating because I try to sing and I just can't do what I hear, like what you're saying. Yeah.
Well, that's the beauty of an instrument, though, because it won't fail you the way your voice will.
Yeah, and it's also of turning up the music really loud and singing along, so you just become part of the greater whole. And that's an interesting thing, too, we noticed in Rock to Recovery sessions as we really work to get everybody singing. We'll write a chorus, hook, melody that we can all buy into, and when we keep pounding it out, it's funny how even people who probably on their own would struggle with pitch and all that will get right in line and that choral, group singing has this magical synergy to it, People often, I think, do do much better singing in that scenario, you know?
Yeah, I wonder if they could change the way they do music in schools, because that to me wrecked music for when I was like in elementary school, and the type of music that they sort of forced you to sing, and and the teachers were
Me
not
too.
musical, personality wise. I mean,
Yeah.
they had training,
Right.
but they weren't fun. It was,
No.
it's the expression is play music, not work music. But
Yeah.
they made it work, and it was
Yeah.
just I was just remember you get up in front of the class and sing this song, and I'm like I'm so embarrassed, and I don't like the music. It doesn't speak to me. I couldn't articulate it because I was a kid, but I remember thinking like I don't even like music until I got
Yeah.
a little bit older and I was a teenager and I started listening to the stuff on the radio and then albums and things. And then I got interested, but
Yeah, I had a similar experience in school. I don't know what music. Well, actually, I do. I went to Huntington Beach High School, and their music department is super cool and hip, and they have digital recording software. And so I think the kids have a lot of freedom to go after the kind of music they like. But I had a similar experience when I was in there. They were like, okay, you're going to learn acoustic guitar. Of course, I'm going to take a guitar class. And they were having us learn the thumb brush technique, which is literally a country technique where it's like boom, glang, boom, glang. And I was like, this is horrible. And then you're right, the teacher wasn't very artsy or anything. And so, but I think we've probably come a long way.
I would hope so.
Yeah. I don't think you cannot, I think that because of the internet and YouTube and all these applications that it's just advanced on its own. You couldn't stop it, consumers.
Yeah, I guess I was just born in the wrong era for that at that point. In terms of school music programs, they were rough. But even now, even in the schools, it's classical music generally. That's the thing, and then they do some sort of concert band type stuff. But it's a little on the homogenous side. It's not. And I just wonder how that I guess maybe because it's safe and there's no risk to the lyrics or the energy is contained. Or they're also trying to work as a group, so they have to keep it a certain way, but it doesn't seem that much fun to me.
Well, there's a big delta between classical music and classical training and rock, and I call everything rock, pretty much everything's rock. If you're not reading it off a sheet of paper, with a conductor, it's rock to me.
I used to say a symphony orchestra is nothing other than a Beethoven cover band.
Whoa. Well, I don't have as close to the disdain.
It's not disdain. It's a joke.
I just play it. Well, I grew up around classical music, and it's funny because I really appreciate it because, us rock guys, we play like the same rhythm for 4 times, 4 measures, and then we go to the chorus for 4, and it's like, and we struggle to get that tight. And then you have, and this is with a drummer who keeps us honest, and he's banging the drums, and we're still like banging our heads so we can try to be in the pocket. And then you have these classical musicians who are just like spot on perfection, sight reading off there with the maestro. I mean, it's just like, I have such great respect for that because it's this whole other, they're like aliens to me. I know some shredding guitar players and I can play some fast notes, but these people, it's just like ridiculous what they can do. And I think it's cool. Cursive handwriting's going away.
Yeah, that's right.
Classical music will always be here. You know what I mean? Certain classic stuff definitely has its merit.
I guess when it's too mathematical, then I feel sort of turned off by it. But if it's energetic and wild, within that genre, I like it a lot more.
Yeah, we all have a different song in our soul that sings to us. My mom is amazing, and she goes, "Who's your favorite singer?" And I put on Bob Marley, and she's like, "Yeah, it seems like he's kind of chanting to the music." I'm like, "Oh my God." I totally disagree with you. And then I listened to some of these like Italian tenor guys, which are cool. And then to me, it's just way too operatic. So, everybody, I thought they were amazing. I wish I could remember the name because they are pretty cool. But just, to me, Bob Marley is like this soul. Like, I feel like he doesn't even try to sing. It just like comes out like this channeled spirit. whereas and I could understand what my mom said, where it felt kind of like it, because it's not like singing. Bob Marley has these little cool phrases that kind of just wiggle in and out. He doesn't hold these long belting notes. And then you get in this more operatic stuff, and it's like belting out the note and on we. And that's what takes, to me, some of the expression away. For me personally, like what you're saying. But to each their own, right? That's why there's chocolate and vanilla and Neapolitan. I mean, let's face it, some people can't decide. So there you have it.
So what's the next phase of your rock to recovery? You have some big dreams?
So what's cool
Medium dreams, small dreams?
Yeah, we're going to take over the world.
Ideas.
So rock to recovery, I started as a nonprofit, and then we had people paying us for our services. So I have a for-profit entity, right? So I wanted it to be real clean business-wise. And so I started diverting income from the for-profit to fund the nonprofit. But that has its limitations. And so the nonprofit, we give it away to state-funded indigent programs, places that would never get a program where a professional musician brings in $5,000 of music gear and writes songs, you know. So we love to give it away, and we wanted to grow that. And we decided after a few years we were doing this and we had our reputation going, hey, I want to do a fundraiser. And of course, being a band guy, I probably had grand dreams, you know. And so we went to put on our first fundraiser, and I connected with a gentleman named Billy Morrison who plays guitar with Billy Idol. Real cool dude. We have some of the same spiritual principles, I think it's fair to say. And he offered to help out. And so I rented out the Fonda with Billy, you know, on my own. And Billy was like, yeah, I'll help you. And Joe Fletcher, who's been booking concerts forever and you name it, he's worked with the artist. Pretty much the stupidest thing I ever did in one sense of the word. Like, you have one guitar player in a venue and you got to try to fill this thing. Somehow we pulled it off. Billy Morrison helped me put together a band of, you know, we had Chris Chaney from Jane's Addiction and Billy Idol's band, which included Steve Stevens, Eric Eldenius. We had Chester Bennington, who just took his own life, play, Fred Durst, Mark McGrath from Sugar Ray. Chester's, of course, Linkin Park. Fred's from Limp Bizkit. They all played, and it was just like super magic night, and we decided to make it a sober gig to honor people in recovery. And what the magic happened that I didn't anticipate is all the local treatment programs came. And I've played some good gigs like, you know, Korn, 80,000 people in a lightning storm, but my phone never blew up so much as after that gig, to the point where I went to bed at probably 3 a.m, of course, and by 6 my phone was just text, and I just started crying. And I'm not a crier. I mean, I was bawling because it was all the years of work. It was the crash and burn after my band, that I'll never play music again. Can I even stay sober? My life sucks. It's over. My credit's bad. And here you had this moment, people going, that was the most amazing show ever. Like, people who normally drink that were there that didn't drink were like, I didn't even think about whether I was drinking or not. And the whole recovery community loved it, because in the recovery community, there's not a lot of sober events that support the community like that. And then the cool part is we had Mike Ness, the iconic rock and roll legendary singer for Social Distortion there, who accepted our first ever Rock to Recovery Award, standing on stage for a bunch of newly sober people who are, most of which, actively in a treatment program, attending. And Mike Ness is like, and they're like, oh, that's Mike Ness from Social Distortion. He goes, yeah. If I didn't get clean in the 80s, there would have never been a Social Distortion. People were walking out of shows. We were not going anywhere. So there's this message being sent that sobriety and recovery is cool, that we can come together, both the sober and the normies, as they call it, over an amazing night with the red carpet. J.B. Presley was there, Tito Ortiz, all sorts of amazing people. And it was quite magical. So we're doing year number 2, and I'm going to sneeze.
Yeah.
Woo!
There you go.
We're doing year number 2, and we got Kings of Chaos playing, which is guys from Guns N' Roses and Stone Temple Pilots, and Frankie Perez is singing, and we're honoring Corey Taylor from Slipknot and Stone Sour, who's 2 mega platinum bands. Super cool dude. He's taking our second Rock to Recovery Award, and we're honoring Wayne Kramer, who was in a band called MC5.
Remember the MC5? Absolutely.
Yeah, and they were precursors to punk rock. I mean, he's a legendary dude, and he's done a lot to help those in recovery and those incarcerated access music. And so he was kind of like a kindred spirit when we kind of found each other, if you will. Not like dating site found each other.
Yeah,
but
as
spiritual.
friends.
No, but so we're honoring them. Yeah, so it's going to be another killer night, and it's at the Fonda Saturday, September 16th. That's Saturday, September 16th at the Fonda. Although this podcast will live on forever, so that's 2017, people. 2017.
Well, this will be out there in the universe way before that. So let's hope.
Good.
People come. I think I'd like to come to that myself.
Yeah, we'd love to have you. It's super cool, super fun, and we're going to continue having these rad sober events to help destigmatize, addiction, help spread awareness about it. And also, I think the message we share from the stage with these rock stars who are like, hey, I'm sober, so I play in a giant band and I can stay sober with all these challenges around me, and just the community supporting itself. So we're proud of that, and we look forward to where that can grow. And as far as Rock to Recovery as our program goes, we haven't found a spot it hasn't worked. At-risk youth and, like I said, eating disorders, mental health, wounded warriors, PTSD, traumatic brain injuries. We just want to keep growing it and see where we could take it to help people.
So it's all about healing and helping other people.
That's right.
It's fantastic. Is there a website people can check you out, or any other type? I know you have a Facebook page. I saw that. And are you allergic to the library? We're actually in the public library doing this in the study.
Hopefully,
you'll
edit
room.
out me sucking my.
If you want me to take it out, I will.
I don't care. I'm human. Hey, I've sneezed and my nose is running now. So we have a website, rock2to. You spell it out, rock2recovery.org. We have a Facebook under the same name, Rock to Recovery, Twitter, Instagram. We're easy to find on the web. People reach out to us all the time. We get a lot of emails for, hey, can you help my brother? Or I want to help your program, or when's your next event? We're on it. So if you reach out to us, we'll be there to talk to you.
It's great, man. I was really enjoyed talking to you.
Me too.
All right.
Thanks for your time.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for coming over and doing this for me.
Honor
with me.
and a privilege.
Yeah, thanks.
Right on.
Wes Geer. Bye.
Over and out.
All right, that was Wes Geer. Enjoyed talking to Wes. Fun guy, interesting guy. Love the work he's doing. And I love doing the podcast, so I really appreciate you listening in, and I'm going to keep doing this thing. We'll see how it goes. Kind of a new venture for me, so I'm enjoying it, and I'm still trying to figure a lot of stuff out, how to do this thing. So, these things take time, and I got it. Anyway, thanks for listening in. I don't like to do a whole lot of post-interview talk, so come back and check it out. Thanks so much. Bye.